All right, here we go. Sound check, sound check. This is Travis from Carter Capital, helping you fight for your financial freedom throughout the Forex market. Thank you for being able to watch on Trading View on YouTube, and obviously make sure that you end up checking out Expert About the Reviews on YouTube. Well, thanks for everybody being able to pop in. This is the first time that I've spoken in about a week. Um, I think last week what we ended up having to do was a lot of family emergency stuff that I had to take care of, and just being honest, got kind of burnt out just a little bit, but I'm glad I ended up getting that rest. Sometimes it's always good to be able to get a little bit of rest before actually being able to jump into it. So let's go ahead and go through the disclaimer. Then after that, we'll talk about everything else. I'm not a CTA, so I'm not going to tell you whether to buy or to sell. What I'm going to do is teach you education. From that education, you can be able to make your own informed decision. And understand that trading involves risk, and involves risk of being able to make money. Also involves risk of being able to lose money. So please keep that in mind. And understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, which means that if you end up making money yesterday, it's not promised that you can end up making money today. So with that being said, there's a lot of stuff that ended up happening when it came down to us trading over the course of the last week or so. The market has finally ended up breaking out of consolidation points and everything else like that. For the people that ended up watching it a couple weeks ago, when I ended up doing that, when I ended up showing it, hopefully you end up keeping in those trades. All of those trades end up going into profit. But like I said, I was really kind of burnt out, and um, trying to get everything else situated when it came down to just myself in general. So didn't really look at that many trades. But let's talk about what's happening this week. Last week we ended up having non-farm payroll. We ended up having the official first week of the overall trading month. They ended up going through. The other portion that ended up happening was that we ended up having climate count that's coming up this week. We end up having consumer price indexes coming up this week. We're going to consider this to being as the um, so this information is out, and it's being treated as the third week of the month, but it's really it's really okay. Let me rephrase it like this. Typically, at the non-farm payroll, typically you end up having a week where you end up having a little bit of trading, but not as heavy and less and volatile as what you typically end up having during the third week. Typically, the fourth week is when you end up getting most of your firepower to end up going out. But because non-farm payroll actually end up coming out in week number two, and obviously, if we're taking a look at everything, we're getting retail sales and all other stuff coming up on Wednesday, and we're getting CPI data that's coming up on Tuesday. This is actually going to end up being treated as week three, which means that going into obviously the last week in March, you probably might end up seeing it kind of slow down. But overall, I don't see that there's really no slowdown kind of showing up at this particular point. All right, let's take a look at the United States dollar index. We'll take a look at oil. We'll take a look at gold. We'll see what's happening with that. We'll take a look at Bitcoin as well to kind of get ideas about what's going on. Once again, I haven't traded literally since last week. So I'm getting updated with a lot of this stuff that's happening overall as well. And from there, we end up talking about everything else that's kind of going. But this was the overall plan of what ended up happening last week before we kind of jump into anything else. The first thing was this. I was looking at being able to take trades, was looking at being able to take trade after the market ended up breaking past 12,960 with the expectation that the market was going to go up to 13,070. The market ended up breaking past that 12,960 area, which opened up buy trades when it came down to being able to get in. The exit point on that one ended up getting all the way up to 12,057, which was about 13 points away from our overall take profit number. If you stayed in and you end up allowing the market to be able to push up and giving yourself a good chance on that one, you could have made profit on the buy when it came down to that. The market fell down all the way down to 12,900, and then after that, quickly popped back up inside of this consolidation block. So this first trade, I'm going to consider that to be a win, but this second trade down here, obviously, if we're looking at it, it pushed us in, it took us out. Essentially, it basically ended up turning into a loss. So in this case, United States dollar index, is there really anything to be able to do at this particular point? The answer is no. The movement that ended up happening last week has affected where the consolidation points are going to end up being right now at this particular point. Now we have to adjust and say that this is the new support, 12,896. So we're still saying 12,900. But the resistance has already been pushed to the upside. That trade has already been a win for people that end up taking that trade because you were definitely in profit and you had a chance to be able to get out of it for 2 days before being able to make a move. Currently, right now, There's really no move to be able to take off of this one. Let's take a look at oil real quick. Looking at oil still in consolidation, and it looks like it's not going to end up breaking out no time soon. So oil haven't been trading since November. That remains to be the same overall. Overall, when it comes down to this one, gold. We take a look at what's happening with gold. Gold went um, from a weekly perspective. Gold went from falling all the way down to the 382, being inside of the buy zone, and finally breaking the counter trend line break to the upside a couple weeks ago, to finally being able to show signs of a U-turn. Now, with that signs of a U-turn, we can see that we end up having our daily D extension actually ended up being hit earlier yesterday. Where we ended up saying that the market would go up to 1891. Essentially, the reason why we said that was because when the market ended up breaking out of this consolidation area to the downside, um, we end up seeing that it basically end up rejecting off this consolidation right here. So anytime that you end up having a breakout, you'll typically end up having a retest. We were trading the retest to the upside. That's exactly what ended up happening. We end up getting a pseudo morning star that ended up happening about 3 days ago when the market ended up getting towards 1812. And then from there, the market ended up pushing up about 60 to 70 points up to the upside, completed this 2 hour D extension. And then after that, currently right now, we see the market kind of resetting. So at this particular point, there's really nothing to do off of the 2 hour when it comes down to gold, because that move has already done happen. Once again, at the beginning of the week, typically Sunday to Monday trades, either you're going to see continuations or you're going to see that the market's kind of finishing. And at this point, the market's kind of finishing this overall move. So I'll kind of stay away from this one as well. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is inside of consolidation after trying to being able to push up to 25,000 and then rejecting. Since then, the market has not been able to break past this counter trend line break, where if it does break, it has to be able to remain to be above 22,000 and hold above 22,000 before actually being able to keep a solidified move. From a daily perspective, the market is in a buy zone, which is good, but it has not broken the counter trend line break, so it makes it kind of hard to be able to get inside of this trade and feel comfortable. From a weekly perspective, we can see that the weekly is showing signs of being able to retrace, and we're still inside of the 33% area, where the support was at 18,240 and the resistance is at 25,000. So it kind of makes it kind of hard to be able to take a trade in the side of this area and feel comfortable about it unless you're hitting supports or resistances. So going to stay away from this right now. Remember, when the market breaks above 25,000, it has a chance to go up to 29. When the market ends up breaking below 20,000, it has a chance to be able to go to 18,240 when it comes down to those movements. So just keep that in mind as we go through. Now, the two trades that I do want to talk about is US 30, and I want to focus particularly on US 30 because we ended up talking about this one for a while. And being inside of consolidation and saying that as soon as this market ended up breaking, we had a huge chance of being able to see that this market will fall all the way down to at least 31,500. Now, the market ended up breaking last week. At 32,550. When it broke past 32,550, the market ended up falling for about 1,000 points easily before being able to have its retracement. It ended up going up to 31,704 from a Ikimoku standpoint. Now, the reason why we called this out and the reason why we talked about this was because that this market has been in consolidation for a very long time, and we end up paying attention to this in two separate manners. The first one was that a couple weeks ago we ended up talking about it was we was inside of a consolidation. We was inside of a consolidation of a consolidation, and we ended up saying that as soon as the market ended up breaking past 33,500, we wanted to get out when the market ended up getting to 33,550. That ended up happening. That trade was made 2 weeks ago. Now, remember, when the market ends up breaking out, you'll typically end up having a retest. Now, take a look at this retest. If we move this blue, we end up moving this blue box. All we can end up seeing is exactly what ended up happening. Market ended up breaking out. Market ended up pushing all the way back up here towards the retest area and then quickly rejected. Once it rejected, it ended up validating this move as being bearish overall. So the consolidation really didn't mean as much. It broke below this overall area 32.5 and 32.520 again, and then after that, ended up breaking out. Now, where did it go? And this is why the Vortex trading system is so important to be able to understand this in general. When the market ends up breaking, typically if it breaks a support, it's going to fall to another support. That's typical support resistance trading. But you have to be able to pay attention to what a previous consolidation was, because that's what the market is going to eventually end up going to. What ended up happening was that the support of that last consolidation that ended up happening before we end up having this large consolidation was from October 25th to November 7th. It ended up falling all the way down to 31,950. The market, when it came down to this one, you take a look at the lows on this movement end up being 31,800. And so it ended up falling down to the support, ended up pushing past that point, which made this trade very simple to be able to get into. Now we're inside of a trending area, and we know that the market is going to end up falling, and we're below this overall consolidation box as well, which means that this market is truly trending to the downside. We can see it when it comes down to what we have for as our indicators, and also we can see what's happening when it comes down to a overall daily and weekly perspective, that this market is truly showing signs of being bearish. Now, ultimately, the question is, where is it going to go? We have free fall in this particular point. I believe that the market could get all the way down back to that 31,500 number, as we end up talking about, which is the last big push when it comes down to this overall movement to the upside right here. And I think that's the area where the market's going to ultimately end up falling. 31,500 is the spot where I think it's going to end up falling. CMG, what's going on? Hope everything's going well with you. First time trading in a couple of days. Been burnt out for a few. Been burnt out since last week. Um, Being kind of transparent when it comes down to that. But yeah, I think that 31,500 is the next area where the market's going to end up falling down eventually to this point. Um, which leaves us with a lot of good opportunities. And that's the thing that I'm going to end up kind of harping today. It's going to we got good opportunities. Now we just got to find the right move. Now, what is the right move going to look like in this position? Because the market's already done fell down 1,000 points already when it comes down to this movement. I want y'all to focus in on what I just showed real quick. If y'all notice, if we look at all the data that ended up happening since October to where we are right now, and CMG, I want you to pay attention to this as well, because it's really going to end up helping out. We talk about this all the time, but really and truthfully, I don't get to be able to show it in real time all that much. High volume node led into consolidation. Remember, the consolidation is a 33% area when it comes down to being able to trade this. As soon as it ends up breaking out of this area, now we're in a free lane of space. If you look at it, the last high volume node that it left was 33,560 when it came down to that point. The next adjacent high volume node that matches up with that overall spot, it's all the way down at 30,720. So eventually, the market will end up getting down to 32,720. Now, because we're in low volume node territory, this is going to happen faster. This area is going to end up dropping faster than what it did up there, or what it ended up doing for its movement up there. So now it's the time to be more aggressive than being more conservative when it comes down to trading in these overall positions. So 15-minute timer is going to be the thing that I'm going to end up paying attention to. I'm looking for counter trend line breaks, and I'm looking for overall brief consolidation that ends up putting us into a point of being able to move. Currently, right now, as we look at it, can we call this consolidation? The answer is no, not yet. But if this market does push back up and goes towards the highs again, then we can call it consolidation. And then after that, our order, or at least my order, will end up being below these overall lows and these wicks, which would be at 31,800, going all the way to 31,500 when it comes down to that position. So we got a 300-point move when it comes down to that. I can see a big head and shoulders. I can see that as well. I can see that as well. I really, finally, somebody ended up saying that. But obviously, the next position will end up being as soon as this market ends up breaking below this consolidation area right here. The reason why I'm not calling it fully consolidation, even though it has hit, we can call it consolidation, because it's done essentially end up hitting right here, right there, and then pushing up right there. So there goes your 3 taps right there. Here goes your 2 taps right here. As long as the market today pushes up here and then stays inside of this area, then after that we have true consolidation to be able to worry about. For the people that like being able to trade strategy forward, which is being able to trade the resistance and then trying to trade it down, that order will end up being right around 32,350 to 32,370. for us being able to sell. Now, the area where you'll want to be able to get out is 31,500. The reason why we said that was because of what's happening based off of the hourly and being able to see what a true consolidation point will end up being, which would be right here, or where the market could potentially fall, which is right here when it comes down to that point. Okay. Last one, let's talk about NAS 100. Okay, first take profit will end up being 31,500. Second take profit will end up being 30,700. 30,700 is going to take a little bit more time, but that's where it's going to end up going. If you notice, when this market ended up making this movement the last time, this was a huge free run area right here. It didn't take very long to be able to go into that spot. Literally, I think it ended up taking almost 2 weeks. Okay, it's about 21 days. So we take a look at it from this movement to that movement. It was 14 days, so 2 weeks. But the best thing about it is now we got decision in the market. We know where the market's going to go. And as long as that remains to be the same, then we should see that we should see this opening, this gap right here should be fulfilled. All right, cool. So NAS 100. NAS 100 has been everywhere at this particular point. Remember, NAS 100 ended up making the first move outside of this consolidation that we end up having from the end of January. I see. Launchpad never sent me an activation code to get the roll. Okay, that's awkward. Um, I check my stripe as soon as I end up getting settled today, and I see what happens. Actually, you're the second person that's said something about that, so I need to talk to Launchpads. Um, from being honest, I don't like what I'm seeing based off a chart of NAS 100. As a person that hasn't looked up this chart in a week, I don't like what I see. Let's go long. Let's go um, from a daily and kind of figure out what's happening. We're just in a bad area. I'm not gonna suggest anything with Nas. I'm staying away from Nas. Yeah, I don't like anything that I see with Nas. I can delete some of this stuff now. Okay, so I'm gonna wait on Nas when it comes down to that. The best move today, when you're taking a look at any trade, will probably end up being US 30 and kind of seeing what's going to happen based off of the fallout of what happened with non-farm payroll. Um, and kind of going from there. I do expect that the market's probably going to end up popping up to the upside first before being able to make a move. Remember, we ended up talking about 31,700, I believe, from a 15-minute perspective. So you're a person that has to be able to trade today. Wish that position would have showed up a couple hours ago, or wish everybody would have traded that a couple hours ago. Beggars can't be choosers. This is still a 33% area. Me personally, I don't like trading inside of consolidation. If I was going to catch it, would have caught at support. But 31,800 is the support. Currently, right now, the market's at 31,978. See how the market kind of reacts going into the 8:30 to 9:30 time, which is going to be in about an hour and a half to 2 hours when it comes down to that movement. I kind of think that the market's probably going to do something like this: push up, reject just a little bit, kind of rely or stay right inside of this point, and then ultimately end up making a move up here. Um, Once it gets up here, then obviously people that like to be able to sell the resistance will probably end up taking that trade and then seeing if the market can be able to fall down and make that movement overall. No, for right now, nothing to be able to do on this particular point. You like what I ended up doing? I know this was a shortened session, but trying to get back into it. It's only 20 minutes, but um, with that being said, um, you like what I ended up doing, please make sure to click on the boost button. We're back at it now at this particular point around this time and kind of keeping everything kind of going from there. Um, like always, make sure that you end up planning your trade and then trading your plan. I'll see each and every one of y'all in the next video tomorrow morning. All right, everybody, take it easy.